to generate more listings. I've been doing a huge a nationwide campaign talking about this very topic of how to overcome the listing crisis that's happening, where there's just not enough inventory, more buyers than there are sellers. And even though the marketing is starting to shift a little bit in some areas, it's still a huge problem. And what kind of makes me scratch my head is how there's not, how many agents are not going after what I call the low-hanging fruit. And these are people that have already raised their hands. They've already identified themselves that they're in the market to sell. And basically, as long as you can present unique value, they're going to do business with you. And as simple as this sounds, I know that not everybody has experience working with a unique niche or niche marketing, particularly with like geographical farming or dealing with expired listings or for sale by owners or maybe probate. And so I want to go through a simple system that I've developed to where literally between myself and my team have been involved in thousands of these transactions working this niche. And so as you've had that type of success in working, and by the way, all across the country, so these strategies have been proven in each market, every market that I'm about to go over with you. And really at the end of the day, I always like to start off with systems, because if you're going to go into a niche and you don't have a system in place and you just go out there and you just try to find a listing presentation, you try to find some cool, I don't know, maybe a couple video scripts to do, or maybe like you're hunting for data providers, but you don't actually have a system where it's all organized coming together, it's very hard to excel in that niche and do it quickly. I'm all about speed, okay? So the reason why I focus on systems first is because my goal with anything that I do is if it normally takes somebody a year to figure out, I'm going to figure it out in 6 freaking months. And how you do that is by developing the system and going and modeling the system. So I'm going to share with you a very simple but powerful approach that you can model when it comes to generating more listings. All right. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick. So you should see a split screen, see me on one side and see my PowerPoint on the other side. Starting off, one of the things that's really, really important is making sure that step number one is you have a multi-channel marketing approach set up, that you're not just depending on prospecting or not just depending on direct mail, but you're actually using a multi-channel marketing approach. So different channels such as video, email, text, a ringless voicemail, okay, social media, direct mail, and other traditional forms of marketing, maybe like a newsletter, or other maybe unique forms that I personally don't engage with as much, but there are other things that are out there. And this is why this is powerful, because statistically, if you're going to work with in a geographical market, or it's a for sale or an expired, if you're not, it's going to take 8 to 12 exposures, okay, exposures as a whole. And I should have prospecting on there too. That's got to be one of them. But in order to be able to maximize your conversion and to do it quicker, remember, it's about doing things. It's about getting the transaction faster. It's about converting the lead faster, so you can stay ahead of your competition, and you can making sure that you're developing systems to hit the goals you want to hit. So that's the first step, is making sure that you have all channels of marketing set up. And that's your technology and marketing stack is aligned to help you win. The next step is to make sure that you have the right sales scripts. So your marketing content for all of your different channels is developed. Develop the content in advance. The reason why you want to do that is because once you start getting in and you're in the trenches going after this niche, you're going to make some tweaks to the content and your scripts along the way, but you want to have a good structure and good content for each one of those niches. And then same thing with your prospecting, your dialogue. Get your listing presentation right. I see listing presentations that are being used from 20 years ago out there. So you got to develop a modern day listing presentation that's going to speak to what the homeowner is dealing with right now. Okay, so get all these things updated in advance before you're ready to go. And then number 3 is making sure that you're following a daily sales and marketing plan. All right, where You're implementing a daily sales and marketing schedule. So you're staying very consistent with your prospecting and marketing activities. My rule of thumb is if you get it done in the morning, you get your prospecting, your marketing done in the morning, your afternoon is going to take care of itself, right? And so when you execute these, when you're going into the daily sales and marketing plan, you want to implement the schedule, have a specific schedule. You want to make sure you're staying on routine with your marketing calendar. And you want to also, too, find somebody to help leverage yourself as you start getting momentum. Because at first, depending on your budget, maybe you're already very successful and you have a budget to do this, but it's a lot easier to make this plan work if you have a little bit of leverage where somebody can do some of the technical stuff for you, right? While you're focusing on making it rain, all right? So this simple 3-step process will help you dominate any niche, okay? So then you take that process, and let's say you want to go into for sub-A owners and expires, okay? You can follow a 7-step strategy. So you have the system now, and now you're going to develop a strategy within that system for a particular niche. First thing you want to do with any niche, and I'm going to talk about for sub-A owners today, they have a totally different psychology to them than an expired or a probate or a geographical lead. They have different pains. They have different motivations. So you got to make sure you first and foremost, before you call your first before you call your first for sub-A owner, is make sure that you understand their psychology. Make sure you understand what objections are going to come your way, because at the end of the day, there's only 4 or 5, maybe 6 objections you're going to get. Most for sub-A owners are very commission conscious, right? So knowing that's going to be an objection, don't engage with a for sub-A owner unless you know how to handle that objection, right? And just be prepared, right? So the other thing is make sure that you're building out unique value propositions in your marketing plan and your listing presentation that's going to speak to their pain and motivation. So they might be sensitive to a contract. They might be sensitive to performance. They might be sensitive to commission. So one of the things that we have done is, and what we teach all across the country, is we've developed a program specifically for sub-A owners. We don't promote it publicly, but if we're working for sub-A owners and they happen to be adverse to a long-term contract, or they happen to be concerned about commissions, we have what's called our Flexible Advantage program. And what it does is basically, depending on the services that they want from us, well, depending on what type of commission structure. So we have a sliding scale commission structure. It starts off at 7% and works its way down. And so now the for sub-A owner can see, okay, it's about service. So when some other agent comes and discounts their commission, I'm probably going to get less service. Less service could translate, right, into less net profit for me in my home. Because ideally, if you have this commission plan laid out the right way, you also have all the marketing services and the different things that you do, right? And so that's just an example. There's other examples too that you can do to speak to this niche, to the for sub-A owner niche. I'll just tell you a quick story. I had a gentleman who was trying to get into the for sub-A owner niche, and he was struggling with it. He went probably out on 10 appointments and didn't get one listing. And as frustrating as that was for him, I shared with him that he shouldn't be discouraged, because it's if he's getting in front of him, that's kind of the harder part. So he's getting in front of him, but he wasn't converting him. And when we dug down deep into his process, one of the biggest mistakes that he was making was he wasn't paying attention to their psychology. He was being combative with them, and basically just trying to brag about how awesome of an agent he was and how great he was at what he was doing, but he wasn't presenting any real evidence. So we made a couple tweaks to the listing presentation. One was making sure we added a unique value proposition. 2, we looked at some statistics, where we brought some statistics to the table of what happens with for sub-A owners when they sell on their own versus when they sell with a high-powered agent. And that a few other little tweaks. And as he started to understand the psychology of the for sub-A owner and ask the right questions, then he started converting. And so that's the kind of, leaving off with this video, is that if you understand the psychology, you got unique value proposition, you have the scripts and the dialogues, You're executing daily, making a minimum of 20 calls to 40 calls a day. You're following up. You have good data to call, and you've deployed and launched your multi-channel marketing approach. Now it's just about making the tweaks, and that's what's getting exciting. If you follow this framework here, and you make tweaks along the way, you are sitting on a 6-figure plus gold mine with this niche. Okay, you can do 40 to 50 transactions in almost any market in the United States with the for sale by owner niche. Now, yes, are you going to go through a pain and learning curve to get there? Yes, of course, just like anything else. I don't care what it is you're doing. You're always going to go through a learning curve. But here's the exciting part. Once you understand the psychology, you figure out the top 5 objections, you have unique value propositions, you have your listing presentation that matches their pain and motivation, you're unstoppable. And you can almost predict your income, and you can basically curb the issue that you may be having where you have more buyers to work with than access to inventory. And now you are in control. And that's really what it's all about. Anyway, I hope this video helped you with the for sale by owner domination system. I'm going to talk about expireds in my next video. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your Saturday.